Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into a vast, dark chasm. The air is cold, and the wind whips around you, making your heart race. You feel a strange mix of fear and excitement, the kind that makes your hands shake and your breath quicken. Now, imagine that this chasm is not a physical one, but a chasm in time, and you are about to take a leap back into the 12th and 13th centuries, a period known as the High Middle Ages. This was a time when the world was changing in ways that would shape the future for centuries to come. During the 12th and 13th centuries, Europe was undergoing a transformation that was as dramatic as it was profound. This period, known as the High Middle Ages, saw a surge in creativity, innovation, and exploration that would lay the foundation for the modern world. It was a time when Europe was emerging from the dark ages of the early Middle Ages, and the energies and talents of its people were being harnessed in one of civilization's great bursts of development. The political landscape was also changing. Power was becoming more centralized, with kings and emperors consolidating their authority and expanding their domains. This centralization of power had a ripple effect on every aspect of society, from the economy to the arts, from technology to education. It was a time of great ferment, a time when the old ways were being challenged and new ideas were taking root. One of the most significant changes was the rise of commerce. Trade routes were expanding, and merchants were traveling farther and more frequently. This surge in commerce had a profound impact on the economy, leading to the growth of cities and the development of banking and credit systems. The rise of cities, in turn, led to the emergence of a new class of people, merchants, artisans, and scholars, who would play a crucial role in shaping the future of Europe. The High Middle Ages were a time of great artistic and cultural flourishing. Artists like Giotto were painting with a newfound sense of human emotion, capturing the complexities of the human experience in ways that had never been seen before. Architects were building magnificent cathedrals that soared into the sky, symbols of human ingenuity and faith. These cathedrals, with their intricate designs and stained glass windows, were not just religious buildings, but also works of art that inspired awe and wonder. Technology was also advancing at an unprecedented rate. Inventions like the compass, the mechanical clock, the spinning wheel, and the windmill were transforming everyday life. These innovations made travel easier, communication faster, and production more efficient. The spinning wheel, for example, revolutionized the textile industry, making it possible to produce clothing more quickly and at a lower cost. The windmill and watermill harnessed the power of nature to grind grain and saw wood, freeing up time and labor for other pursuits. The High Middle Ages were also a time of great intellectual curiosity. Scholars like Thomas Aquinas were setting out to organize and systematize knowledge, laying the groundwork for the scientific method and the modern university. Universities were being established in cities like Paris, Bologna, and Oxford, providing a place for students to learn and for scholars to conduct research. These institutions of higher learning would become the centers of intellectual life in Europe, attracting students and teachers from all over the continent. Exploration was another hallmark of this period. Adventurers like Marco Polo traveled to distant lands, bringing back tales of exotic cultures and new ideas. These explorers not only expanded the geographical knowledge of the time, but also opened up new possibilities for trade and cultural exchange. The stories of these travelers captured the imagination of people across Europe, inspiring a sense of wonder and a desire to learn more about the world. However, not everything in the High Middle Ages was positive. The period was also marked by significant social and political conflicts. The Crusades, for example, were a series of religious wars that pitted Christians against Muslims in the Holy Land. These wars had far-reaching consequences, both in terms of the loss of life and the cultural and economic impact on the regions involved. The Crusades also led to the rise of powerful military orders, such as the Knights Templar, which played a significant role in European politics and society. Religious tensions were also a significant source of conflict during this period. The Inquisition, a series of institutions within the Catholic Church, was established to combat heresy and maintain religious orthodoxy. The Inquisition was known for its harsh methods, including the use of torture and execution, and it left a dark stain on the history of the Church. Similarly, the Albigensian Crusade, a campaign against the Cathar heresy in southern France, resulted in the massacre of thousands of people and the destruction of entire communities. Despite these conflicts, the High Middle Ages were a time of significant social progress. The rise of cities and the growth of commerce led to the emergence of a new class of people, burghers and peasants, who had more rights and freedoms than their ancestors. This was not a steady march toward liberty, as some later historians would suggest, but rather a series of small, often unintended steps toward greater social mobility and individual freedom. One example of this progress can be seen in the story of the Sire de Coucy, a powerful noble family that played a significant role in the political and social landscape of northern France. The Sire de Coucy, like many other noble families of the time, faced financial challenges due to the costs of participating in the Crusades and other military campaigns. To raise funds, they often had to sell communal privileges or commute labor services and bonds of serfdom for money rents. This process, while not always intentional, helped to reduce the power of the nobility and increase the rights of the common people. The Sire de Coucy, in particular, was a family that embodied the excesses and the contradictions of the High Middle Ages. Ingaire, and the third, known as the Great, was a powerful and ambitious lord who built or reconstructed castles and fortifications across his domain. He was also a man of contradictions, known for his military prowess and his chivalric ideals, but also for his ruthless behavior and his conflicts with the church. Ingaire and the Third's career was marked by a series of military campaigns and political struggles. He participated in the Albigensian Crusade, a brutal campaign against the Cathar heretics in southern France, and he fought in numerous other wars, including a conflict with the Diocese of Reims over feudal rights. His aggressive actions and his conflicts with the church led to his excommunication, a severe punishment that cut him off from the sacraments and threatened his soul. However, Ingaire and the Third's ambition and determination allowed him to overcome these challenges and continue to build his power and influence. One of the most significant achievements of Ingaire and the Third was the construction of the Great Castle at Coucy, which was designed to surpass the Royal Tower of the Louvre. This castle, with its massive donjon and elaborate decorations, was a symbol of his power and wealth. The castle was built by a workforce of about 800 stonemasons, uncounted ox carts, and a host of other craftsmen, including carpenters, roofers, iron and lead workers, painters, and wood carvers. The construction of the castle was a massive undertaking that required a significant investment of resources and labor, but it was also a source of pride and a symbol of the family's status. The castle at Coucy was not just a military fortress, but also a center of cultural and social life. It had a grand chapel, larger than the Sainte-Chapelle in Paris, which was richly decorated with carved wood, gilded surfaces, and beautiful stained glass windows. The chapel was a place of worship and a symbol of the family's piety, but it was also a work of art that reflected the wealth and taste of the Sire de Coucy. The Sire de Coucy's influence extended far beyond their castle. They were involved in the political and military affairs of the region, and they played a significant role in the broader history of France. Ingaire and the Third was a vassal of the French king, and he was expected to provide knights and support in times of war. His domain was one of the most powerful untitled baronies in the realm, and he was a force to be reckoned with in the political landscape of the time. However, the power and influence of the Sire de Coucy were not without challenges. Ingaire and the Fourth, the son of Raoul II and the grandson of Ingaire and the Third, was a particularly notorious figure. He was known for his violent and cruel behavior, and one of his crimes became a catalyst for a major advance in social justice. In 1253, Ingaire and the Fourth hanged 3 young squires from Laon without a trial, a crime that was considered an abuse of power and a violation of the rights of the common people. King Louis IX, a ruler known for his piety and sense of justice, could not ignore this act of tyranny. He ordered Ingaire and the Fourth to be arrested and tried, a move that was seen as a significant challenge to the privileges of the nobility. Ingaire and the Fourth was tried by a court of peers, but King Louis insisted that the trial be conducted in a way that was fair and just, even for a nobleman. This was a significant step toward the rule of law and the protection of individual rights, and it set a precedent that would have far-reaching consequences for the future of France. The trial of Ingaire and the fourth was a turning point in the history of the Sire de Coucy. Although he was convicted and fined, he was allowed to retain his title and his lands. However, the incident had a lasting impact on the family's reputation and their relationship with the crown. Ingaer and the Fourth's reputation was tarnished, and his actions were seen as a betrayal of the chivalric ideals that were supposed to guide the behavior of the nobility. The Sire de Coucy continued to play a role in the political and social life of France, but their influence began to wane in the 14th century. Ingaer and the Fourth's successors, including Ingaer, and the Fifth, Guillaume and Ingaer, and the Sixth, continued to hold the seigneury of Coucy, but they did not achieve the same level of power and influence as their predecessors. Ingaer and the Seventh, the last of the Coucys, would face new challenges as Europe entered a period of political and social upheaval. The story of the Sire de Coucy is a microcosm of the broader changes that were taking place in Europe during the High Middle Ages. It is a story of ambition and excess, of conflict and cooperation, and of the gradual emergence of new social and political structures. The High Middle Ages were a time of great transformation, a time when the old ways were being challenged and new ideas were taking root. This period laid the foundation for the modern world, and its legacy can still be seen in the architecture, art, and institutions that survive to this day. As you stand at the edge of the chasm of time, looking back at the High Middle Ages, you can see a world that was both familiar and foreign. It was a world of great achievements and great challenges, a world where the seeds of modernity were being planted. The High Middle Ages were a time when Europe was on the cusp of a new era, an era that would eventually give rise to the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the modern world as we know it today.